Howdy, folks, and welcome to Here's the Deal. I'm your host, Shiloh, and of course, I got my trusty co-host with me, Mr. Marvin. How are you?
I'm doing good, bud. How are you?
I'm doing good. Well, Rick's running a little late. We do have Rick Becker on tonight, so if you don't mind, I'm going to open up the show with something that's been on my mind all day. Today, I got to do a little traveling, and with that, I opted to listen to the radio.
Oh boy.
And yeah, I know I probably shouldn't have, but here anyway. Here comes Rick. We'll bring Rick on too. So
Yeah,
and
let's
before,
see what he has to say about it too while we got him.
yeah. Good evening, Rick. How are you?
Good. Oh, you want me on landscape? Hold on. Here we go.
No,
That's up to you.
That's fine. So before we start, I do distinctly remember a couple guys. The last time we had Rick on was making fun of my cooking abilities. And I noticed neither of you two are in your kitchens tonight. So what I have done, just a second, and then we'll get down to the real business.
What'd you make, Shiloh?
I haven't made nothing. So, as you can see, I have a toaster in here.
Jesus.
And just to prove a fact or a point,
Uh-huh.
that I can actually make toast because you guys were making fun of me the last episode. Here it goes.
All right.
Now, it's not my fault if this thing bursts into flames because I have had a popcorn popper burst into flames on me once. But don't worry, folks. I'm a safety professional. I do have a fire extinguisher or a towel. Hopefully none of my coworkers are watching. So, anyway, while my toast is cooking, Rick, I was telling everybody about my road trip for work today. I got to listen to the radio a little bit, and the station I was listening to was 660, so it was Joel Heitkamp's show, and Joel wasn't on today. He had some substitute. I don't know who he is. He says his name is Danny, and he used to be like one of the majority leaders in the legislature. Use water. No, I'm not going to use water. Thing's kind of making me nervous. It's taking a while. Anyway, so the first guy that he had on that I run into was former Senator Rich Wardner, and they were talking about politics today.
Mm-hmm.
And I found it interesting because he asked Senator Rich Wardner how the feel of politics in North Dakota have changed from when he was in it to now. And Rich made the comment of, well, it's changed a lot because when I started, we used to work across the aisle from each other and get things done. And now you've got the far left versus the far right, and you have people running for office that necessarily don't, and I'm just paraphrasing now, but basically they don't fit the bill. The reason they're running is because the far right or far left is asking them to do that because, to raise heck or whatever. But the comment that really got me was, okay, just a minute. My toast, I think, is getting a little brown.
There's probably a dial on that, Shiloh, just to,
Oh yeah, there it is.
Yeah, there's a setting there, bud.
Well, there you guys go again. Making fun of me.
Well,
Anyway,
I mean,
are you
I
using
put aside my nachos, man.
Are you using like 110, 220? What are you using for your toast?
Slow.
Okay.
Anyway, the comment that he made was that it seems that more and more legislators today are for themselves than their constituents, more than they were back in his day. And the first thing that came to my mind was, well, if that's the case, then why did what happened to Luke Simons happen to Luke Simons? What is, if that's the case, then what was the big deal of the voting records being posted? And of course, we could go on with different examples of this, right? Different stuff going on.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So it's really weird. What you have is, and I understand Rich is respected, certainly out in your area, longtime legislator, but this idea that these folks, the old guard, the establishment, the country club Republicans, have for the people that are fighting for principles, they have all sorts of like things that they say, like they're just in it for themselves, like Rich said, or they're just trying to get headlines, or this or that. See, the problem is that if you want to fight the status quo, you can't do it without making some noise, without standing up for principle. And when you do that, you inadvertently call attention to yourself. And it's not about yourself, but it's about standing up. How can you stand up if you sit quiet? Right?
Right.
So Rich and the old guard, they can reminisce about the good old days when they weren't fighting for principle. I mean, if that's really what you want to reminisce about, great.
Right.
But under Rich's watch, as majority leader of the Senate, you saw our spending skyrocket, and you saw extremely limited tax relief. You saw extremely limited tax reform. There were when Rich was majority leader, we Liberty Warriors in the House would say, well, I would say that the Senate is where good bills go to die. We would work our butts off and pass strong First Amendment, Second Amendment, Fourth Amendment, 10th Amendment. We'd pass great bills in the House. We'd work our butts off to get them passed in the House. And in the Senate, they would die. I'm not sure if that's what it means to say we got along and we worked with the other side. Yeah, buddy, you worked with the other side to kill liberty.
Yep.
Well, and
Voila. Perfect toast.
Oh, look at you.
Look at that. And I didn't even burn the house down.
No, but you burnt the edge.
Oh, it looks pretty good. Pretty good.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate that.
But I've heard that about Rich too. 2 sessions ago, I had a legislator tell me about an interaction that they had with Rich after one of their bills had gotten shot down, and he goes, "I had an issue with the fact they told me sometimes you have to make some deals to get a bill passed." Yeah, he wasn't one of those people that makes deals.
Yeah,
and it's one of those things where we've seen so much of that in the past with the "you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back" philosophy, that I think they're a little bit startled about people actually standing up to represent their districts and not the special interests.
That's what it comes down to. That's what it comes down to, is that the game, the way it was understood, the way you played it, the way you advanced, and if you played it, you were able to get some stuff passed. But you see, to play the game, you couldn't have these strong principles. So you could do things that you thought were good for North Dakota, but they had to be within the confines of what was acceptable to the country club. And so when they're then confronted with people that say, here's what I'm about principle. I believe in things, and I'm going to stand up for them. And if it costs me re-election, I'm okay with that, because I'm not here for myself, right? Opposite of what Rich is saying. I'm not here for myself. I'm here because I believe in these principles, and I believe if we had more people that were going to fight for those principles, we would be better off as a society.
I agree.
Opposite of what Rich is saying. The people that are there and don't want to make waves and want to make sure they do the right thing so they can climb the ladder and they can have all the friends in the legislature and the lobbyists, and you can't tell the difference between the two. Those are the folks that are in it for themselves. They're in it for themselves. We who are out there and taking the arrows and being called the names and the extremists and this and that because we're standing for principle. That's the exact opposite.
So the other two people that this guy had on today was Colin Peterson from Minnesota, John Hoven, and then Heidi Heitkamp. And so I want to get your reaction to this, because I want to ask you about this with your congressional run, Rick.
Yeah.
So they started talking about this this center that they're doing with these colleges. There's 12 colleges in the Midwest. It's called something in research. And basically what it's going to do is it's going to help uh, research for the Farm Bill, is what I understood. And they're gloating about this. And so I'm just kind of wondering, if you're elected, what are you going to do with the Farm Bill? What is your idea for the Farm Bill?
Well,
Because the other thing John Hoven pushed today on the radio is we need reform on crop insurance. And obviously when you ran the first time, yep, exactly.
Come
So
on.
we need more. This is what I got from the 2 interviews. We need more crop insurance, and we need more farm in the Farm Bill. And so they signed there. It sounds like they're going to sign an extension and try and get a new Farm Bill for 2025.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's funny. So when I said we should reform the Farm Bill, then Hoven spent $1 million pushing the narrative that I hate farmers.
yeah.
So now he's in favor of reforming the Farm Bill. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, to get to your point, so the
Mhm.
Farm Bill is interesting, and it's intentionally this way. You guys know it's a mix of welfare or SNAP, right?
Mm-hmm.
Food
Yep.
food stamps and stuff, and it's crop insurance and the other farm programs, and they put the two together so that it's guaranteed to pass, because nobody in a rural state will vote against it, and nobody with a large urban population will vote against it. And it doesn't matter how bad it is. The idea is
Right.
you just can't vote against it, which, and what I've done in the state legislatures, you can always vote against something, even if you know it needs to pass. But if it's not in the form that's acceptable to you, you vote against it so that you bring it back and make it better. But politicians generally, by and large, have no spine. And so, oh, yeah, I'm voting for it. It doesn't matter what you pack in there, as long as you don't have a no vote. But reforms, so one thing, huge reforms can be done on the SNAP side of things, the welfare side of things. But there's also reforms that should be done when it comes to the farm side of things, crop insurance.
Mm-hmm.
The crop insurance program, the way it's set up, and especially for the last 10 years, the way it's set up, is the number one reason land prices are what they are. The number one reason it's almost impossible for a young new farmer to get in the game is because of how the crop insurance is set up. You're socializing the risks. When you socialize the risk, you increase the price, and now people can't even get in the game. Additionally, what you're looking at is the subsidies. The vast majority of subsidies that the crop insurance doles out are to a very small minority of the richest farmers.
Yep.
How is that good for the farmer? Now, in addition, there's a tremendous amount, just like I'm not picking on the farm. This whole thing with the Farm Bill got brought up because of a comment I made about how, according to the Constitution, the federal government shouldn't even be involved. Same with flood insurance, same with anything. It's
Right.
not in the Constitution, right? But that's a philosophical argument about what technically the founders foresaw is different than what do we do now when we're in this world of government programs, and how can we make them better? So there is no federal program out there that doesn't have crazy amounts of waste and abuse. The crop insurance program is no different. I can't believe how many farmers tell me nearly every farmer I talk to tells me it's worse than I thought it was, the abuse. Now, if you can cut out abuse, what you do then is reduce the number of frivolous claims. When you reduce the number of frivolous or fraudulent claims, you reduce the price of crop insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that be better if crop insurance was cheaper?
Yep.
And unless you're a person who's committing fraud, you are 100% in favor of this, like I am. So there's things that can be done, and there's all sorts of, I have several ideas. When I get to Congress, I will surround myself with people who are very knowledgeable about it. And, we can talk about enterprise units, and we can talk about the number of years of claims, and we can talk about caps on different types of claims per acre. There's a lot of ways to do it so that you hold farmers whole the way they understand it. You reduce fraud and waste.
Gotcha. Policy and Research Center. That's what they're calling this. And It's going to be headquartered in NDSU, and there's 12 colleges in between here, Iowa, and Illinois, from what I understand. And the only colleges right now that do this is Texas A&M, and there's another college in Missouri that has these policy and research centers, according to what Colin Peterson and Mr. Hoven said today. And so now they're trying to get these 12 other colleges into it, and of course they're gonna get federal money for this. So my first reaction to it was, and maybe you guys can chime in here about it, but my first thing is well, why not? We give the colleges everything else that they want. What's more money to the colleges? So
Whoa.
Yeah, right. That's a loaded gun there, Shiloh.
It is. It is. I know. I understand that.
And I mean, to your point, I mean, how many state-funded colleges do we have in North Dakota?
11.
11
Yeah.
state-funded colleges.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like we're already sending a ton that direction already. Sorry for doubling up on that already, but it comes back around to how much time, how much money is going to be wasted looking at something that we can find an answer to a lot faster, a lot more efficiently by just looking at the numbers, looking at the past and moving forward.
Right.
Well, what you've got with John Hoven, Colin Peterson, Heidi Heitkamp is an interest and a willingness, and it's their realm, it's their court that they're used to playing in, which is to divert taxpayer money into special programs, and the rent seekers will be there to take what they can from the taxpayers, all in alleged benefit for the taxpayers. Whatever this, and I'm speaking without knowing the details. I need to state that. But what we're talking about is not a think tank that could be a private organization like so many other think tanks about doing research with agriculture and so forth. You're just talking about another program to divert taxpayer dollars into something that is allegedly going to help them, but not nearly as much as if they could have kept the money in their own pockets.
Thank you, Rick. That's what I meant to say. I appreciate that. So, and the other thing I learned about listening to the radio today, because I don't listen to the radio that much. I'm listening to podcasts and different things going down the road. We really must have them scared with this property tax deal, because if you're not hearing commercials about the $500 tax credit that they're trying to give out, the next is they got, no kidding, one of the guys that was doing they were doing an interview or whatever. He was a business owner here in Williston, and the first thing out of his mouth was, I want everybody to know that they need to apply for this $500 tax credit that goes for your property taxes. Like, I didn't even know about it. And so that was the first thing before they even started talking about his business and what they had going on there. But I can't tell you how many commercials I heard about that $500 tax credit.
Yeah. And you know who's paying for those commercials?
Governor Burgum? I don't know.
You are, and I am, and Marvin is, and all your viewers are.
The taxpayers?
Yep.
I heard an interesting commercial too on my way. I had a test drive a vehicle this morning, and I kicked over to K-Fire, and I heard a Brighter Future Alliance commercial on K-Fire.
Yeah, I'm sure
go here to join.
Yeah.
So,
what do you know what time that was roughly? Was it between 9 and 11?
Oh yeah, it was when Julie was on. Fedorchak was on.
Okay. Yeah, so that's between 9 and 11. So the 9/11 spot on KFYR is purchased by Big Energy. What they did is replace the host that was on there, and they put in Michael Bell, who has no radio experience. He's a lobbyist for energy industry. They put him in, so they buy up all of the advertising, and then the people that are kind of aligned with them buy more advertising.
Yep.
And they tell KFYR, we own these 2 hours. This is our program. We will pay for everything. And then the program is really all propaganda. And it is, in large part, the whole idea is to push the CO2 pipeline. They're playing chess while a lot of people are playing checkers. The weird thing is that it's so obvious and so overt that if I was a listener, I would be pissed because of how stupid you think I am. So you remove the guy who has been doing the radio, who was speaking out against the pipeline, and you put in a plant, an energy industry lobbyist, who talks nothing except about how great CO2 pipeline is. All of the advertising is the energy industry and the people that like the pipeline. It is like being in the Soviet Union. So Brighter Future advertises on that. Yes.
So getting back to your congressional run here, I'd like to we were talking a little earlier about the farm bill and stuff, and I'm curious to know, and you've already kind of commented that you're going to surround yourself with people, that know this kind of stuff. Do you have people in mind from North Dakota as well to surround yourself?
Oh yeah, I'm speaking specifically of people from North Dakota, farmers that have contacted me, ranchers that have contacted me and said, "Hey, I'd love to be an aid or a voice when you're looking for information."
Okay. Yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
that's really neat. I think
right.
that's needed as well.
Sure. I mean, anyone who pretends they're an expert on everything is nuts. They're just feeding you a load of bull.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's a lot I am going to learn about agriculture. There's no doubt. But can you imagine if you were a congressman, and the only thing you had the right to vote on was what your vocation happened to be? I mean, how ridiculous is that? And so, for instance, if I was a farmer, then I couldn't vote on anything other than agriculture. Or if for me in particular, I'm in medicine, like as though I only can vote or understand things about medicine. We have to understand that the people we need to send there need to have the principles, and the principles apply to every single vocation. So then when you have experts explaining to you, what this means, you can then apply what now you've learned to the principles to what you've learned, and say, okay, this is a good bill or a bad bill.
Yeah, I agree.
So let's start with where we should have, because Shiloh was talking about toast and radio. Why the run for the U.S. House? When you had announced, Kevin at that point hadn't announced he was looking at re-election on the Senate. I know that there was rumors that he was going to be doing it. And then, we lost him. Where'd he go? We'll give him a minute. But no, I mean, it's solid points as to what was going on with everything, Shiloh.
Yeah.
We are continuing to see more and more and more propaganda that's getting rammed down our throats. To the point of Rick's talk with the special interest, I mean, you look just here in Bismarck, recently the city commission gave up millions of dollars of waterfront property to the Fort Lincoln Foundation. One of the only easily publicly accessible boat docks, kind of central Bismarck's going to be gone from the looks of the current proposal. And in the meantime, they just sent out evaluations on folks where they are looking at increasing their property valuation by 10%. Now, keep in mind, for most people in Bismarck, their current tax rate would be the equivalent of 2 house payments. You add another 10% on top of that, you're only paying for your house 9 months of the year if you're still buying it.
Yeah.
They're going to price people right out of owning homes. And
that's what they're doing. Well, and that's just the other thing too, Marvin, is they're afraid of this property tax deal.
Well, and we see it all the way across the state. Williston, I mean, they just posted their information. The budget for their new school is $54.5 million.
Yeah.
Harvey, $23.5 million that they're proposing for schools up in Harvey. And like, it seems like they're spending the money before they have it. And like the Williston thing, there's Rick. Sorry, Rick, we lost you there. I'll finish my rant later. But anyway,
I'm sorry, guys. That's all on me. My phone died. I need to update my version or something because it dies out every day between 6 and 9 o'clock. Sorry.
Gotcha.
No, but that's fine. So why the U.S. House though?
Yeah. So here's the scoop. I want to make a change. I want to be part of a change. These things I believe in. I believe in very, very strongly. When I'm looking at these last few years, and I believe I've been part of a really good change and a good movement in the state legislature with the grassroots, right? And back in 2016, we ran for governor against all odds and made a great showing at the convention. In 2022, I made a great run at the convention for Senate against the most powerful and formidable political person in recent North Dakota history. And we nearly got it, and we should have got it, but we nearly got it at the convention. And what I'm looking at is the reasons for running are, number one, because you want to make a change. If you can win, you can make a change. Number two, because you want to hold people accountable. And number three, because you want to keep the conservative movement alive. If you don't have anyone you can believe in and rally around, it starts to die out. Once it dies out, it's hard to reignite. Okay, so going forward, I'm pretty much getting to the end of where I'm interested in trying to keep the big fight and going against, a David Goliath situation. And when I'm looking at the various races and the possibilities, I'm at the point where I think you cannot change the game if you're not in the game. So the idea of running and saying, you know what, where you could be absolutely the most important as far as making change might be this race. Okay. But if I have a 10% chance of winning that race versus a 60% chance of winning another race, I'm looking at it as more like a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. So no matter where you go, you can make a difference. I'm looking at the House race. I'm looking at what's going on in Congress. They need people to stand up with the likes of Thomas Massey and Jim Jordan and Chip Roy. So yes, I know a lot of people were pushing for me to run for governor, and I could make a big difference there, but I can also make a big difference in the House. Once I'm there, I'm in the game. Now I can try to make a difference, and I can look back to North Dakota and try and further develop the bench of conservatives that can run statewide. Because when you look at the bench in North Dakota, it's very slim for those that have the support, both financial and structural, as well as name recognition and experience. It's not very much, and one of the reasons is because the people who have been in power squash the conservatives down, and they lift up the country club style players. Once I'm there, I can change that paradigm and build the bench. So there are ways, even though I'm going to DC, that I can help very much the situation in North Dakota.
Well, that's huge. Obviously, you've already spoke about the Farm Bill.
Yep.
In the past, you've brought up education stuff. Like, what are your kind of main, I'd say, what's your top three things you want to go after once you're elected?
Well, the one that's easiest to get your arms around is the southern border. We've got an invasion, a systematic invasion of the country, an intentional invasion of the country by the progressive left. And we have to get control of that border, because not only are we losing our country, losing our culture, but we have a tremendous amount of fentanyl coming over. Even the fentanyl deaths we're seeing in North Dakota is due in part to our porous southern border. Not to mention the tragedy of human trafficking. It blows my mind. So we have to get control of the southern border, and that's a matter of applying the law that already exists and funding what's needed to be funded down there. And then we can tighten it up with additional laws as well. Now, we need to get a new president in there, and we need to have a majority in Congress. But that's something that you can say, okay, if we're serious about this, boom, 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 we're going to be done. And so you need folks that are going to actually stand up for that. They had an opportunity to at least try. We didn't have 60 votes in the Senate, but we had a majority in the Senate, majority in the House, and the presidency in the first 2 years of Trump's term. And we still didn't get anything done on the border. And we passed in the Senate the Chuck Schumer budget, which didn't include funding for a wall. So that's egregious in my mind. So we can do the wall. The second thing is just spending overall. We have a legacy of elected officials that are so spineless and so squishy. They vote for all sorts of spending. And if you get just a little good thing that your constituents want passed, but there are 15 other things along with it that are all bad and all huge spending, because they're so spineless, they still vote yes. And so, I was out in DC last week. I should come up with a much better analogy, but I'll just tell you what I told this particular organization, conservative organization, when they're asking me about omnibus bills and various spending bills and things like that. And I likened it to this idea that we keep voting for these huge bills, these huge budgets, because we're afraid to vote no on this little thing. And I likened it to, if there's this nice little truffle, a nice chocolate truffle, delicious, high-end sweet, but it happens to be packaged in a crap sandwich, I'm not going to eat that truffle. I know that truffles are good. I know that I normally like them, but I'm not going to take it in that circumstance. And that's how I view the omnibus bills. They are a crap sandwich and they must be voted down, even though there might be some nuggets that are good in there. What we need to do is bring those nuggets back separately. So if we have people that have a spine and stand up and are not going to vote for earmarks, are not going to vote for omnibus budgets, which are just laden with pork everywhere, if we're going to have people with a spine that are not going to vote for useless continuing resolutions, are not going to vote for raising the debt ceiling, we can maybe start to turn this ship around. Sending billions of dollars to Ukraine. I'm opposed to it. I was opposed to it when it wasn't cool to be opposed to it. And I don't know the situation on the ground, but I do know that there is no circumstance in which we should be sending billions of dollars to a corrupt country with corrupt politicians and not have any accountability or expectation for payback, especially when we are a nation in debt. It's unconscionable that we keep going further into debt to help other countries instead of helping our own citizens.
Well, and what did I see today? It was either today or yesterday. It was $118 billion to the Ukraine. And they were listing off like the entire budgets of certain agencies and U.S. agencies that you're talking like $14 billion for the entire country. Mm-hmm. So and granted, where I stand on overpaying and too much overhead costs on agencies, but like these weren't like unimportant agencies. It wasn't like it was just Health and Human Services. It was actual agencies that do good for the entire country. Mm-hmm. And it was 3 different agencies they listed off, and if I could remember their acronyms, I'd tell you. But yeah, their entire budget for a year was between $12 and $14 billion, and we're on how many rounds of donations over to the Ukraine?
Yeah.
How much would 114 or 118 billion dollars work for removing poverty to help homeless across the country? I mean, we're not taking care of our own house. We're too worried about everything else. Yep. Sorry. I'll put my soapbox away.
But you're exactly right. I mean, I would even question funding Israel. I'm in full support of Israel, but we could actually help Israel more if we stopped funding her enemies.
Yeah.
And in the same stroke, help our own citizens. I mean, that seems a lot smarter to me than funding Israel's enemies and then saying, "No, now we have to really fund you even more." It's who gave us that responsibility?
Someone's phone's going off.
Not mine.
It's my computer, and I don't know how to shut down that sound without shutting you guys down. So you're gonna have to bear with it. Oh my god.
I'm glad I'm not the only one with technical problems.
You're just a problem in general, Shiloh.
That's
I
right.
mean,
Hey, but at least I made toast without burning it tonight. Or
yeah, there
burning the
you
house
go.
down.
Right.
So
Anyway,
anyway, I've totally lost my train of thought of what I was gonna ask next.
No, it's fine. But so right now you have 3 with a 4th possible challenge coming up just for the primary. I met a gentleman at the District 8 meeting fundraiser on Saturday that's running too and collecting his signatures.
Oh,
So we have the establishment, we have the Bergenback candidate, and then we have our conservative candidate. And one thing I brought up, because Sandy Sanford was there, I asked the question. I go, how at the state convention can we lift the rule to endorse Dr. Becker? I go, because he has many supporters across the state.
Mhm.
And Sandy had said she had actually had Andrew come and speak to it. We would need, and listen up, folks, if you're a delegate, we need a 2/3 vote at the state convention in order to lift the 6-year independent rule for Rick.
Are you going to be at the convention, Rick?
yeah, I'll be at the convention. I think the state committee is meeting in March as well. They could lift it with a 2/3 vote of them. But they tried that in October. They had a majority, but they didn't have 2/3.
Yeah, it's still an ugly split.
And I had been telling people, don't do it. I frankly don't want you to do it. Let Julie and Tom, fight it out, and we won't be. But now Tom's not even going. So I've told people, you know what? I'll be there. You do what you want. If something happens, I'll be ready.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want them to, Rick? Why wouldn't you want them to do that?
If Julie and Tom were going,
Yeah.
I would want the weaker of the 2 candidates endorsed to ensure that the weaker of those 2 candidates goes to the primary, because though both of them going to the primary helps me in the end.
Yeah.
That's the fully transparent answer.
Gotcha.
But now Tom's not going, so I mean, hey, listen, I'm up for a fight if that's what people want, but I'm not. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I knew what the rule was when I ran against Hovind. I'm not complaining about it. It is what it is. I think it's a bad rule for the delegation, but I'm not asking for it to be changed. I think it should be changed at the next opportunity.
Yeah.
But if the people who are going to the convention, or if the state party decides they want to change it, then cool.
Well, and that's not even just because of you, Rick, because when I looked at my SOS run, like, I strongly debated running as an independent in November. And the fact that I would have to go 6 years without receiving endorsement. So you're not kicked out of the party or anything. You can't be endorsed
At the convention.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing how much weight that carries to have that endorsement, like, that was something that changed my entire run, my entire dynamic. It's why we made a 3-month run instead of a 9-month run for the Secretary of State's office. So
I don't know.
It's not just because of what you're currently facing. It's because what I faced even when I looked at my own run.
Yeah. But we have to ask ourselves, really, what comes with the endorsement at the convention?
Other than a little bit of help with advertising.
Very little bit of help with advertising. And you have newspaper headlines that weekend.
Yeah.
Other than that, the fight is in the primary. Tom and Julie both said they're going to the primary no matter what.
Yeah. Well, we're seeing that in every legislative district across the state, too.
Right. And I would have been, if it hadn't, what's ironic is if it hadn't been for this rule change, I would have been content to go to the convention and honor the convention just like I did the last 2 times. But now I got to go to the primary. So, okay.
Well, and like, I'm excited to watch it all play out. I'm not going to lie. We have 4 DPI candidates. We have 3 U.S. House candidates. We have 3 governor candidates, last I heard. And then every legislative district. I mean, 14 is going to have 6 candidates, 30 is going to have 6 candidates. It's going to be a very interesting primary, folks. And that's not even talking about your counties, your cities, your school boards. Because remember, primaries where that's decided.
Yeah.
So,
well, the other race that we have now is the national committee man too, and with Steve Nagel announcing, and we're gonna have him on Friday, so that'll be
which will
a
be
good one as well.
Well, and it'd be the first time we've had a change in that for a while. How long has Shane been the committee man?
Wow, quite a long time. I don't know how many years.
I think almost a decade.
Yeah.
So,
one thing I'd like your opinion on, Rick, is so recently, my wife has had some health issues, and at any rate, a long story short, we got into an insurance battle because the medication that they were giving her is awfully expensive. It's an infusion.
Okay.
And so her doctor prescribed this. And then anyway, we get back home from Mayo, and we get into a 2-month insurance battle because they don't want to pay for it. Now, this particular drug actually focused on the part of the body that she needed it to. It wasn't something that just kind of covered everything.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a 2-month battle, and it ended up that the insurance company wouldn't pay for what she needed, but they'd pay for the generic brand, and it would basically focus on the whole body instead of just that one part.
Yeah.
And we see this quite a bit where insurance companies can dictate on what doctors' patients get. And I'm wondering what we can do about that. And I know, there's a lot of speculation of big pharma and the kind of pull that they have with the doctors and different things like that. So I'm wondering where can we find something different to where insurance companies can't dictate to doctors. I mean, we had my company's HR department fighting with our insurance company. I mean, it was, like I said, it was a 2-month battle. And the thing about it is she was supposed to get these infusions every couple weeks. Well, she got one, and then she didn't get any of the other ones. So we basically had to start all over and it was a 2-week period, or 2-month period.
Mm-hmm.
So I know there's a lot of other people out there. I mean, I've talked to coworkers that have had issues with insurance companies and different things. And I'm wondering, what can we do to fix this? I mean, as a lawmaker's point of view, what can we do to fix this?
Well, anytime you have a problem like that, you can and not just in healthcare with pharmaceuticals, if you really look into it, government is the problem. Okay. And the what goes along with that is the solutions that people propose are almost always more government. And that's how it works. Government causes problems, and then government is called to solve the problems it caused, which then causes more problems. So when you look at, if we talk generically, or generally, sorry, there are some areas where the government is causing the issue directly, and then there's problems where the government should be intervening but isn't. So it costs about just under $2.5 billion for one of the big drug companies to bring a new drug to market.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't need to cost that much, but it costs that much for them to go through the hoops of FDA. So you start off with a tremendously high cost. Now, if you believe in capitalism at all, you understand that if a product costs a tremendous amount to bring to market, it's going to cost more. They have to recoup their costs. Now, again, I'm not justifying what the costs are, but I'm saying there is that general sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it costs me $6,000 to bring a Wagyu beef to my restaurant, I'm not going to charge you $2 for the hamburger, for a hamburger patty. Costs more, I got to charge more.
Mm-hmm.
So the FDA has incredible hurdles and regulations that needlessly inflate the cost, and that gets transferred to the purchaser. Then you have a good old boys club where it's going between lobbyists and legislators and bureaucrats. FDA. It's a turnstile. They're just going around and around, and they are. It's in their best mutual interest to keep all of these regulations in place and the hurdles and pay to play and all that kind of stuff. Then you have government regulations where they, in the case of insurance, for example, I'm sorry, in the case of insulin, for example,
Mm-hmm.
they don't allow import from foreign markets. If we allowed that, that means we'd have a greater supply. Greater supply means lowered cost. They don't oftentimes allow alternative products. For instance, insulin made from originally from an animal product rather than human, which would be just as good, or at least, if someone is saying I can't afford insulin, but they could afford something that's 99% as good as what's on the market for half the cost, I think they should be allowed to purchase that if they want. So you have those types of things. Then you have where the government should get involved, where there's a term evergreening, where pharmaceutical companies will have a patent on their pharmaceutical, and they change one tiny thing that actually doesn't change the drug at all. And then they continue the patent, and it continues and it continues and it continues when the patent time should long be over. So there are so many areas that the government can either pull itself out or use itself appropriately that would lower costs, and they're not. But capping drugs, I think, I think if you take, it's very, it's hard because it's emotional. The healthcare is emotional. But if you take yourself out of that part of it, capping any product, the cost of any product, putting a ceiling on any product harkens back to FDR and control of the market. And there's always the unintended consequences of doing that. And they don't play out well for the consumer.
Well, and I get what you're saying there, but I feel even the bigger issue is how can an insurance company dictate to, let's say, you as a doctor and tell you what's better for your patient when you already know the stuff that you gave said patient is working?
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure how to answer that. There are hospitals that they have a formulary and they choose what they want on their formulary.
Mm-hmm.
But that's by typically a committee that decides that. But a pharmacy can't tell me as a doctor that I can't prescribe something. They might tell me that they don't cover it. I can still prescribe it.
Yeah, what about an insurance company?
So it's a circular game, Shiloh. I mean, insurance really is you're paying for in case stuff happens. So every premium that goes into it dictates how much they'll pay out on a claim. Now, the circular game is the pharmaceutical companies give stuff to doctors. Doctors turn around, and there's usually conditional stuff that's there. I mean, you look at, if you don't know what your coverage is, which sucks, which is why we do have some really good people that work at our state insurance commission, it's going to turn into a circular game, because for them, your insurance company's primary interest isn't protecting you. It's making money and protecting their stockholders. Because if every claim that pays through pays out at full price, guess what?
No, I get that.
Yeah, and I
And
think
then the other thing is,
I meant to say insurance companies, but I mean, if we're looking at it just in basic market terms, if there's a product that, and I guess I can use the terms I did before with like insulin, but if there is a product that is 1/10 the cost of another product and is almost as good, the insurance company has an option to say, well, either we're going to not cover that really expensive product, or we have to increase premiums. I mean, there's that component to it, and I'm not getting into how much profit they're making or not making, but
Right.
we have to accept that unless you live in a totalitarian government, well, for one thing, we already moved away. Insurance now covers pre-existing illness. That's not insurance. That's just government healthcare. You can't take your car that you crashed and then go get insurance and say, I want you to pay for the crash that I just had last week.
Right.
Right. So it's not insurance, it's government healthcare. So we've already moved away from that. And there are many examples, and I don't know about your situation, but there are many examples where, well, we can even say diagnostics. We can go old school, and an X-ray in some situations, an X-ray at the cost of $80 is going to be 96% accurate. But you can get an MRI for $4,000, and it's going to be 99% accurate. Now, everyone and their brother demands the MRI. They want the best of the best, but they don't want the cost that goes along with it. And that's the other part of insurance, is there's no skin in the game. Because you're paying your high premiums, not you, but I mean, we all are paying our high premiums. We want the absolute best healthcare we can get. And so everyone gets the $4,000 or $6,000 MRI. Not only that, but the doctor is afraid if he gets the $80 X-ray, there's going to be 2% of the population that they missed the diagnosis that are going to sue him. So everyone gets the $4,000 MRI. So healthcare costs are skyrocketing.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, it's all a game.
Yeah, it's not insurance anymore.
No, so I guess we've covered why you're running. We've covered kind of where you want to go, what you want to work on. Is there anything else you want to say to get people out for you on the primary, Rick?
Well, I think your viewers already know me, but here's the thing: is that the country is spiraling. We're right on the edge. Some people will say it's already too late. I know that we can't stop fighting, but I do know that if it isn't too late, it will be very, very soon.
Yeah.
The only way we can fix it is to send people that put principle way above party, put the idea of doing the right thing way above getting reelected. And I clearly am the only proven candidate in this race who has shown that exact quality of character. I've got 10 years of that as a legislator. So we know I'm going in to do that. I met out in DC with the few people that have that same backbone. I'm endorsed. We're going to roll out all the endorsements over the next several weeks. I'm endorsed by approximately 10 House Freedom Caucus members, by Representative Thomas Massey, by Senator Rand Paul. These are all folks that I've spoken to personally that are endorsing me, number of organizations. They know the critical nature of what we need to do to turn the country around, and getting people that are going to play the game, getting people that are more concerned about getting along with people, that are more concerned about having the appearance of being a good compromiser, is the last thing that we need. So this is a critical race, and I believe I'm the candidate for it, at least of those that are in the race.
And we have your website on the ticker here all show, or most of the show, and our viewers can go there and check your campaign out, and they can also give donations there if they so choose.
Yep.
You can always use donations, right, Rick?
I can always use donations. There's going to be a big battle. One of my opponents has the old guard establishment backing her. They're going to put a ton of money behind her. We are looking for donations before the end of the month, because that's when the first quarter reports come out. That's where you want the big number. We can take that big number to the organizations nationally and leverage that for more funding. And so if someone is inclined to donate to my campaign, if somebody wants to save the country, I encourage you to make a donation within the next 2 weeks.
Well, and Rick, I want to say this before we get off with you here too, like not ending the show, but you, over the last 10 years, I mean, just what you've done, what you've accomplished, Like your willingness to get back into the fight no matter what the odds. I mean, for me, that's some days there's that I need a little pick me up, and here's Rick going charging, steaming into a city council meeting to argue about something because it's the right thing to say. Or here's Rick dealing with articles that are coming out just to attack and smear him, and literally brushing it off your shoulder and going about your day. Like when it comes down to it, like even before I got a chance to meet you personally, like you've always been a fighter, and being willing to take one on the chin for everybody else when you could easily just say, okay, I'm going to play along, or okay, here we go. We need more people like that. We need more people like that here. We need more people like that in our city commissions. We need more people like that in our legislative assembly. We need more like people like that in our capital. And I was sad when you quit running for House, but I was happy when you ran against Hoven. And when I heard you announce for this U.S. House position, I was really conflicted because I was hoping to see you make a run at governor. But I'm still happy with your run for House. So, and it's nice to see that when you have somebody that doesn't care what their opposition says, like the way you can brush off anything that's thrown at you is amazing. And I think it's something that a lot of people can look up to, like whether they agree with you or not. I just want you to know that, like,
I appreciate it.
I didn't say if you're elected earlier. I said when you're elected, because really you got to go, man. You got to get there for us, because we need somebody there that's got a spine that'll stand up for North Dakota.
Yep. If somebody else was in a position that had the principles that we have, I would gladly have stepped aside and supported that person. But again, just the way circumstances are, the history in the legislature and so forth, there's, you find yourself, each person finds himself at crossroads or in a position, and it's the question is, what do you do when you're at that moment, at that juncture? So yeah, believe me, I'd rather not be going to DC, but I'm probably not supposed to say that.
Yeah, well, I'm currently in the decision-making process on something too, because I've been approached about something like 3 times now, and maybe we'll talk about that later. But I get it. I get it, because, you get asked over and over, well, what are you going to run for next? And honestly, I wasn't planning on running for anything this year or maybe ever again. And I keep getting approached for one specific thing, and Sarah and I are still talking about. I'll probably wait and announce on our anniversary like I did last time. But
which is tomorrow, by the way.
Big announcement tomorrow.
Yeah, so if you don't see me on the 14th, it's because she's decided she doesn't want to be married to me anymore. But it's sometimes you don't do this because you want to. You do it because people have asked you, hey, we want you to represent us. And I'm not talking about corporations or conglomerations or established groups or country boy clubs. I'm talking about real everyday people that want you to represent them. So
yes, sir.
We appreciate your time, Rick, as always. It's been fun. And next time, maybe we do need to have a cooking show. And being as I displayed I can actually make toast, maybe I can get something a little harder next time.
Yeah, next time you do eggs, okay? Easy over easy.
Let's start with scrambled. I mean, that's a pretty big ask right out of the gate, Rick.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Rick.
Have a good one, bud.
We'll be talking with you later. And that's Dr. Rick Becker. He's kind of a, how do I say this? He's kind of a regular on the show, and he never ceases to amaze me. We get into some of these conversations and kind of to piggyback off of what you said. I know I said it the last time he was on too, but I've seen that guy go into quote unquote enemy territory, and they just throw everything at him but the kitchen sink, and he just sits there just like he did tonight and sticks to his facts, sticks to his principles, and just keeps on fighting. I hear stories a lot of the times when the Bastiat caucus was there was rumblings within, and people weren't pleased or whatever, and Rick was the glue that kind of kept everyone together. And that guy right there is somebody that I have a lot of respect for, and I think that he will do the right thing when he's in DC. So, and
Well,
I don't want to sound like we're favoring him or anything, but we have reached out to the other candidates to have interviews, and we have not gotten responses back. So there is that. Those candidates are also always welcome here too to have conversation as well. So
well, and that's the thing. Like, you look at even just signing petitions. So, the gentleman that I met on Saturday night, we are going to probably have him on the show with us too. But yeah, I mean, I've signed Rick's petition. I signed this gentleman's petition. Alex, I don't want to butcher your last name. I'm sorry, bud. But it's BALAZS for U.S. Congress. So he's running for the House spot as well. And it comes back to it, folks. Can't tell you how many times I say this. What you're doing by signing the petition is giving them a chance. That's it.
yeah,
You're not saying that you support them or you agree with them for everything that they're going to say.
right.
You're giving them the chance to speak.
Just like these petitions, you're not voting for it per se, but you're just getting it on the petition and on the ballot and letting the people decide what they want.
Well,
So,
and you look at it, and you look at this because I want to talk about it. I was looking at the November elections already because they have the petitions that are up so far. We have, I think, 2 Senate concurrent resolutions and 1 House concurrent resolution. Once again, we're trying to limit the people's voices because one of the ballot measures that's going to be on the November election is single item changes to the Constitution. They've been
what does
after
that
this.
mean?
They've been after this for a decade. So what it would do is it would limit any ballot measure any constitutional ballot measure that's brought forward by the people to 1 item. One item and 1 item alone. So now let's look at gun rights. And I've used this example before. I used it in 22. Let's look at gun rights in our North Dakota Constitution for protection, for
You're
hunting.
saying it wrong. It's gun privileges.
No, it's gun rights because it's in our state constitution. It's in our national constitution.
Oh yeah, that's
Don't
right.
mess with me because I support the right to arm bears.
Arm bears.
So the thing is, though, as you look at, there's 6 different definitions in the North Dakota Constitution for your rights to be a gun owner. What that would do would be limiting it to 1 reason and 1 reason alone.
Yeah.
If somebody changed it, if it got taken off, I mean, you can look at, just the election initiative. Yes, there's a lot of different lines there. There's a lot of things that they're addressing. But literally all they would have been able to do would be a single line item that said no voting machines.
Yep.
It limits the people's ability to change what needs to be changed because obviously it's not getting done at times at the Capitol.
Yeah.
It's not. Otherwise, we wouldn't have constant petitions. And it's not for lack of trying because how many election bills that we have come through where they could have done something and actually got all these guys together that were bringing forward these bills, sat down, had a roundtable conversation, and instead of having 16 election bills, we could have had 1 that made sense.
Yeah. Well, they don't want that.
No, but
I mean,
but to Rick's point, and I forgot to ask him here, like he talks about these omnibus bills. We already had our Office of Budget Management bill ruled unconstitutional in North Dakota. We had to have a special session about it. I was hoping to ask him if he could find a way that we could make that the same way in Washington, so that when these stupid bills that are 1,000 pages come through, they can be like,
Yeah.
no, that's against the law.
Well, we'll write that down, and I'm sure he'll be on again. So
Yeah. Well,
Well,
and I got sidetracked. I actually sent them, I found the 2023 US budget. I sent them a text of that. So I found table 26.1 federal budget by agency and account fiscal year 23.
Well, I'm
And I
sorry
sent that through.
I sidetracked you guys with my cooking skills tonight. So
No, that was funny. I wasn't expecting that. Speaking of which, old man, you have a birthday tomorrow. So everybody wish Shiloh a happy birthday if
I
you
do.
hop on the podcast later.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And it's just so happens to be your anniversary at that same day tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm lucky to get to that one.
And that's kind of cool. So,
Yeah.
my brother's the 5th of March. My daughter was yesterday. Me and my aunt are tomorrow, or my aunt and I, however you want to say that. And then my dad is in the later part of March. So
Yeah, well,
26th.
little girls at the end of March here too. So we're right
That's
there
right.
beside you.
So before we go, I just wanted to mention another thing that I learned while I was listening to the radio today. So, along with being scared of the property tax initiative, they're really pushing vaccines.
Oh God, it's horrible.
It's I think I heard like 3 different vaccine commercials, right? One right after another. And this was after they did, the Fox News break and all that, and where they were talking about the national stories, and now they're talking about measles coming back. And so now they're promoting their vaccines for that, and it's just like, oh my goodness, here we go. It's
Yeah.
scare tactic time, but
we won't get going on that one tonight.
we won't. But here's something else that I want you guys to think of too, because I've been working on my diet and different things, and when my wife got diagnosed with what she's dealing with right now, she got put on the carnivore diet, and I don't know if you guys know this Dr. Ken Berry. He's on YouTube, but he's a doctor out east. And every Monday, him and his wife do a live, and they do different questions. I mean, you can look him up on YouTube. He's got a bunch of things on the carnivore diet. And, Jordan Peterson and his daughter are doing a carnivore diet. I think they've been on it for like 5 years now. And so I've really done some research into this, because I was trying to do it with her as she started in that. And I'll be honest with you, it's the best that I've felt in a long time as far as inflammation in my joints and different things like that. So I've been trying to prep myself, because I want to do some stuff with horses this spring and summer, and get back into training a little bit, and maybe doing some horsemanship clinics and different things. And with that being said, I have realized that I need to get back into better shape and feel better. And so I've been studying this, and one of the videos that I watched, and it wasn't even Ken Berry, it was Jordan Peterson, and he was talking about um the USDA and how our food pyramid is backwards. Like, all you hear about is bad stuff about fat and meat and red meat and this and that, when in fact it's the grains and the vegetables and different things, depending upon who you are. Obviously your body reacts differently. I mean, it's probably not for everybody, but I've noticed for myself that when I eat more meat and less other stuff, I feel a lot better. And it kind of all, if you think about it, what we eat affects us. It affects us mentally, affects us physically. 40 years of this processed food diet and different things that we're on nowadays as part of society, what does that equal? Now we're doctoring at 40 years old. My great grandparents lived until they were almost 100 years old, and they were ranchers out in Montana. They lived on meat. Yes, they ate their vegetables and different things like that, but our food has changed so much from their time until up until now. And it just it kind of makes you step back and wonder, when you got people and now you got physicians coming out and talking the same thing. I mean, you can Google it, you can go on YouTube and find these different guys, and of course you can't believe everything on the internet. I get that. But if you step back and think about it, how this is all designed, it all go in my mind, it all goes together. From the food that we eat to then the doctoring that we do because we haven't taken care of ourselves, and we hit mid 30s, early 40s, and we're going, maybe I shouldn't have ate all those McDonald's meals, or maybe I shouldn't have ate all those box meals. You know what I'm trying to say? Does it make
Yep.
sense, or am I just not making sense here at all?
No, you're making sense. I was just smiling because I mean, you look at just how much Monsanto spent in North Dakota,
Mm-hmm.
and they've spent money in North Dakota, folks. Surprise,
Yep.
surprise. Or you look at how much Pfizer spent in North Dakota.
Yep.
Like, they're donating to legislators, they're donating to other things. It's out there. The other thing I wanted to bring up tonight, Shiloh,
Yep.
it's gone. It's gone. I had something else I wanted to talk about tonight, and just it's been a busy last couple days for me.
I hear you.
Like I said, I wasn't looking at running an office, and all of a sudden now we're having a serious discussion in our house. So I'll know
I hear.
more. I'll know more about that by the end of the day, or at the end of the week here, folks. So maybe we'll have some fun, because I mean, I said when I ran for Secretary of State, I was going to do 4 years and be done unless the people asked me to run.
Yeah.
No intentions of running for the last 3 months. And every time anybody's asked me what I'm running for next, I've said I'm not running for anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that with all seriousness. But this is the third time I've been approached for this particular thing, and it may end up turning into a deal. And it's not statewide this time, folks. I'm sorry, I don't have the time, the patience, or the money to do another statewide race right now.
Well, you and I have talked about this a little bit, in the last few weeks. Obviously, you know that I was thinking about running for the House up
Yeah.
here in District 2, and had things been different with my wife's health and different things, and I would have been able to do the work that I needed to, I would have ran. But I'm not able to do that. I would have had a team around me, and I didn't think that it was fair to lean on them as much as I would have had to lean on them. With
Yeah.
that being said, who knows what the future holds? And I know what you're talking about, and when we'll probably talk more on that on Friday, and I'll give you my lowdown then. So,
Yeah.
speaking of
No.
Friday,
Yes. Dr. Nagel's going to be on with us Friday.
yes,
His run for the national committee, man. Don't go down rabbit holes with diets with him, because he won't get a chance to talk about what he wants to do. So no cooking on the show.
no cooking on the show.
No.
All right. Well, that's only for
Dr. Nagel, for those folks that don't know, Steve's on Freedom Friday on
yeah.
K-Fire with Cody Shue. He owns 180 Health Solutions over in Mandan.
Mm-hmm.
He is currently involved at the district levels in 47. He's our precinct chair. He has been very, very known for speaking out against the general BS of everything. All you have to do is look at school board and county commission meetings back in 2020 and moving forward. So
Yep.
I was
I'm
excited
excited to
to
have him on.
hear he announced. So I will have his website up or his stuff up. You can find him on Facebook. You just look up Dr. Steve Nagel. It's there. Rick, go to his website. We have it posted in the article for today. We had it up on the banner for the show here. We are seeing ridiculous amounts of money spent on elections in North Dakota. Ridiculous amounts. One of the governor candidates I've heard has already put in $5 million of her own money to run for this office. And they are literally making it impossible for a grassroots candidate to run because they're going to bury you in Facebook ads. They're going to bury you in mailers. They're going to bury you on radio. They're going to bury you on local TV, folks. You're going to be so sick of seeing these people by the time June rolls around. You sure aren't going to want to see them in November. I want to see them out at conventions. I want to see them out public speaking. I want a candidate that's going to be willing to travel. I am. But that's just me being me.
Yeah.
And I don't think you should have to pay to play.
No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't. And I hope.
Right? You have to
I
ask yourself why you were willing to pay $5 million on a job that pays $150,000 a year. Carrie, isn't that not spot on, folks?
Yeah.
Is that not spot on?
Yep. That's a fact.
In North Dakota, you should
A
not
U.S.
have to
senator
pay
that
money.
has done that has become quite wealthy since he's been in the Senate too. So,
Yeah.
but
Anyway,
I hope that we start getting some worthy candidates, because right now, there's very few. That I think there's like 3 races that I'm excited to vote for. Other than that, it's kind of plug your nose and go. Not kind of, it is. So, but
and I'm not saying I'm a perfect candidate either.
right.
But it is what it is.
Yep. Well, with that, we will see you guys Friday night with Dr. Steve Nagel. I'm looking forward to that show. We'll see what Steve's got to say about running for national committee man, and so what else do we got going on? Do we have any other candidates after him? Or
the next couple weeks I'm kind of leaving open because we are heading into the convention. I'd like to try and get a few more of the statewide race candidates on before state convention. After state convention, we're going to have Sandy Sanford and Donna Magram to talk about North Dakota Right to Life, their mobile ultrasound vehicle that they got up and running. We have a national group that's going to be coming on and talking with us. We may end up having to do a Saturday show for that.
okay.
It's a group based out of Arizona. It's all, give me a second here. Gen Z kids that are trying to get them on the news and podcasts to promote them big for 2024 elections. So, I mean, these are all YRs that are running for office. And so we'll probably be hosting a group of those guys shortly after state convention. Also after state convention, Naomi Chafee is going to be on to talk with us about the leadership conference they're having at the end of April. So we got some stuff coming, folks. It's just this last month, we've really wanted to try and give candidates a chance to talk before they're endorsing conventions. Now our big focus is going to be the state convention coming up here on April 4th, 5th, and 6th out in Fargo. We want to give the statewide candidates a chance to come on and talk with us here ahead of that. Because, afterwards we're going to take a tiny break from politics, look at a couple other things and kind of move on, and then get refocused for the June primary, because it's going to get an ugly race. It's going to be an ugly race this year, folks. But don't be disheartened. I mean, really, God wins in the end, right? So,
Yeah.
but
Do we have any endorsing convention? Is there a district convention tonight?
I don't know, to be honest. I've been busy.
Rumor has it District 40 is on right now, or was on.
Are they?
I don't know. I was seeing if you knew. So
No, I don't have it right in front of me, Shiloh. I'm sorry.
okay, scratch that then. So
So,
all right, well,
yeah. Go ahead.
with that, oh yep, 40. Carrie says 40. 40
Perfect.
is going on right now, Carrie, and that's up there in Minot, I do believe, right?
Yeah, Tuttle's running for Senate. There's Alex kid that was running for Senate for endorsement. GOP endorsement. That's Matt Ruby's district. Is which one that one is?
Gotcha.
Karen Krebsbach retired, and a couple other people retired from office. We've had a lot of legislators kind of boo boo this year.
Wonder why
The
that is.
last 2 years. So, all right. Anyway,
We'll see you guys Friday.